It's time to unravel the hidden mysteries of the universe. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. Time to transport your mind from the perverted matrix and connect with your higher consciousness into the world of the divine paradigm. The divine paradigm. And now your hosts of the Divine Paradigm, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin.
Aloha and welcome to Divine Paradigm on KCR Radio at www.kcorradio.com, and I'm your host Janet Kira Lessin, and my co-host is Dr. Sasha Lessin. And today we are going to interview our special guest, Susan Collins. And Susan is an internationally acclaimed dowsing teacher, speaker, and workshop leader. She uses traditional dowsing tools as well as the power of heart and thought to detect and transform non-beneficial earth, environmental, psychic, and other energy patterns. She has presented at many international and regional conferences across North America, the UK, in Italy, and in the Middle East, and was featured in The Renaissance, a feature-length documentary on extraterrestrial presence on our planet. Susan has a dynamic global consulting practice and is the author of a successful series of books and DVDs on dowsing techniques. She is a past president of the Canadian Society of Dowsers and was named Dowser of the Year in 2006. She is an ordained metaphysical minister, and she's going to talk about knowing the star children with dowsing. Sash, would you like to say something?
This is a really good opportunity for people that are listening to realize that whatever your experiences are, even if they seem difficult at the time, that if they're reframed properly, you can see how they're meant or even intended for your own growth, and in some way you may have deliberately, consciously given consent either in this or past lifetimes. And I think Susan's one of the people that helps people realize that.
So welcome to our show, Susan.
Well, thank you very much, Sasha and Janet. I am honored and very happy to be here.
We're glad you're here. I'm very curious about what exactly is dowsing. I think I've done dowsing, and I might even be good at it had I been trained or aware of what it is. What is dowsing exactly, and can you tell us a little history of what it is and how it came to be with us here in the 21st century?
Okay, well, I'd be happy to do that. I think I call dowsing a birthright technology in that it is something that we all intuitively know how to do. It's very linked to intuition. And it's really, dowsing, it's really, you have a little pendulum. People have always seen this. You have a weight on a string, we call it a pendulum, and it twirls around in your fingers, and at the most basic level gives you yes and no answers. That's how we see it today in the New Age shops when we go and buy tools. But for me, I think it goes right back into our very primitive roots, basically the ability to find water, which we all needed to be able to do. Animals can certainly do it. They can go out and dig down a hole in the desert and find water. And we're mammals, we are animals, and we have that innate ability to do, but most of the time we've simply forgotten how to do it. So there are various societies, the Canadian Society, American, British, Japanese, all over the world. There are people who have retained the knowledge, and you can call it wisdom if you will. So I'm now I hate to say it, I'm in the elder generation of all this.
So are we.
Yeah, and I think in our times now we can be honored to be elders, and in these days we get to grow old, and I think in former times we would not have gotten this old and been sharing the kind of information that we are sharing. But dowsing, it's something you can use, a very simple tool to get information about yourself. And a minute ago Sasha was saying something about challenges, and when we have a challenge it can actually activate an opportunity, and that was very true in my case. How did I get into dowsing was through having a chronic illness when I was 29 that regular medicine said, there was no cure for. And I stumbled about for many years and found dowsing and was able to bring healing to myself. So that's how I got into it. And in a nutshell, that's what dowsing is.
Susan, Freddie Silva talks about how he and others who are looking for where the ley lines of the earth cross water
Right.
lines as the power points in a probable place. If you're going to try to find some ancient megalithic structures, it'll be right where those things cross. Do you ever use it that way to see where water is and where there's
Yeah.
underground water flowing?
Exactly. So you have hit the nail on the head, really, in terms of what did our ancestors use this for. And I'm a professional well locator in addition to,
Ah,
so, we have to do everything. In addition to being an ordained minister and Ghostbuster, I also find water wells for people. And to me, that is probably the greatest gift, to be able to go onto the land and to resonate with the water that's maybe 200 feet, 100 meters down, and feel that water. But what the ancients were doing really was, as you say, building the ancient structures on certain earth lines that lined up with the Earth's magnetic grids or other electromagnetic grid systems. And by lining up a stone, for example, on an earth line, you can send and receive information along that line. So what we in Britain we call them the ley lines. These lines were extremely important, and Australia as well. And the Aborigines were very good at just everybody shows up in the same place at the same time. And how on earth did they know to be there? Because the information is sent over the Earth's electromagnetic grids.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions based on Silva's and others. They say that just before the sun comes up,
Yeah.
that's when the electromagnetic, the piezoelectric energy changes its direction and it's at its max. And not only does it, it's amplified by the stones and crystals you put on
Hmm.
it, but that it happens by the magnetite in your body too. And I wonder if
That is correct.
are you really the part of the instrument?
Oh, of course, we are the instruments. The tools are simply biofeedback devices,
Ah,
in my view. So if I don't have my fancy pendulum, I use my car keys. You know,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So like there are people who have very expensive tools and depend on expensive tools, but for me, it's always about what is the most simple way we can do this, and what's the most simple way we can communicate this. The reason the Earth's magnetic fields change, of course, is because as the Earth rotates, sometimes we're facing the sun and sometimes we're not. So the Earth's electromagnetic field is compressed when it's facing the sun and streams out the other way. So at nighttime, we're in such a peaceful time because we have more expanded electromagnetic fields. The Earth, and especially with the lead core and everything's rotating, it is such a complex system with so many variables in it. The phase of the moon, the place we are on the planet, the latitude, the longitude. Different places have different gravitational anomalies. Earthquakes happen. There are earth faults. A lot of my
mhm.
clients in California, and I know you're there now, sometimes they feel like they've been cursed and will ask me to look at that. But in fact, all that's happened is that the faults are compressing and shooting up an electromagnetic impulse into their homes. And
Oh,
it's for most of us, one of the reasons I write these books and I talk and I teach, part of it is so people can understand, that weird feeling that you get sometimes. We can explain that, and we look at plate tectonics and electromagnetic systems and
Mhm.
aliens or whatever it is that's coming in. We look at what are the natural causes that are creating this energy soup that we live in.
Yeah, I remember that like Karnak is on the major fault that goes through France,
Right.
earthquake fault.
I read, I think today that Karnak is pointing at Giza or something. I
Yeah, yeah.
think I read that. But the Earth, you can't, even though you're only on one little spot of the planet at a time, we are connected to all other spots through these Earth grids. So to me, it's the internet of the past, if you will. Today we have Skype. Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Yeah, it
That
makes sense. It makes sense to me.
it
It's
totally makes
great.
sense. And we have these connections with solar bodies and galactic bodies because everything in motion is setting up electromagnetic signals and frequencies, and it's like just a big soup that when you slow down and learn how to interpret these signals, you can get a lot of information.
Yeah, so Andy Lloyd and others have said that Solaris's binary nemesis uh, is getting closer and closer to the sun, and it's calming the sun down to have its partner get closer. Have you noticed anything like that?
Well, I haven't noticed that specifically, I must say, but I do notice when there are solar flares,
Hmm.
we all go a little crazy because these huge impulses come and it's enough to knock out our satellites and our phones and our brains. You mentioned earlier the magnetite in our brains and our other piezoelectric features. In our bones, we're all detecting electricity. You get one of these big solar waves passing over us, and it can create havoc, really. So part of the way of dealing with all of that is to have the knowledge to know it's happening.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's various computer places you can go and say, oh, here's the solar flares today.
Hmm.
Here's what's going on, and then you go, oh, okay, I get it. I know why I'm in such a bad mood. It's because of a solar flare. I know that will pass in a couple of hours, for example.
So how
Yeah.
does I'll ask a question then back to
Oh,
you,
okay.
or what? You're on a roll. You go ahead. Ask your
Well, it's just that
secrets.
in this thing that we just went to, Mike Barra it was saying that he's demonstrated that when uh, the twin of the sun, the dark star, is further away, then the sun is really disturbed. They're both disturbed. They love each other, and they're sending out distress signals, and so that solar flares are a direct function of distance between the partner, the lover suns. I thought that was a fascinating hypothesis.
Well, I think there's 2 points there. The first point is that the universe is something like 98% dark matter, dark energy. We don't have a clue what it is really. So pretty much anything can be going on
Hmm.
that we don't know about. The other thing, which is interesting, is cultural interpretations of natural phenomena. So if somebody is Chinese, they will have a certain story about dragons, for example. If somebody's from Celtic region, they will have a story about leprechauns. In the native North American tradition, there will be stories and interpretations. I think, and nothing is wrong, nothing is right. It's the story we make up culturally about how we explain the natural phenomena. So for me, I step out of culture to a large extent, even
Hmm.
though I'm a white North American woman. I look like everybody else, but I break everything down into energy
Hmm.
without compassionately and without judgment. So I don't tell a story about it so much.
Wow, that's great.
That's
Thank
great.
you. That's great framing. Yeah.
Because when you have the story, then other people have a different story and you think they're wrong. But really, they're just telling the story the way they can tell it.
Oh,
And that,
I concur totally.
yeah,
I'm an anthropologist, and so
you're right, exactly.
we really look at and it's idiosyncratic too. Each person has their own individual way of symboling things, not just the
Yeah,
culture too.
yeah, yeah. The native, the Inuit in northern Canada,
Hmm.
they made up stories. They wanted to keep their children from falling in the Arctic Ocean.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
they made up stories about sea monsters, the cracks in the ice, that you can't go near the cracks in the ice because that's where the monsters are. And we told, sadly, I told my daughter that story when she was quite small, around the northern frozen lakes where I live, and
Mhm.
she was terrified to go near the lake. So
Oh.
I had misrepresented a cultural story that was meant to keep Inuit children safe and terrified my own child.
Wow.
So we have to be careful about what stories we tell.
I hope you corrected that.
You know,
um,
I hope so too.
yeah, I had some questions about the tools, the dowsing tools. So there's the rods. When I was about 30 years, I somebody handed me these rods, and it said, "Use your mind to make it say yes or no."
Yeah,
I forget which one was yes, the
yeah.
outward, and then and
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter which is
doesn't
which.
matter. Yeah, I guess she said yes or no, and then she sent it around this table, and there was about 20 people. And when it got to me, I said I hadn't been paying attention. She goes, "Make it yes or no," and I did it right away, and everybody went, "Oh." Because so, can some people do this and other people not? Is this something everybody can?
Well, good question again, and it depends on the individual's belief system. From your story, it sounds like you really weren't emotionally attached to being able to do it or not. You weren't sitting there waiting, oh my God, it's going to be my turn. What will I do? You just picked it up, and in a neutral place, it happened. So dowsing does work more effectively if one is neutral. You don't care. You just pick it up and you do it. Some people are afraid of it. Some people think it's witchcraft. Some people think it's crazy. Some people think that, oh, you're moving the rod yourself or the pendulum. But going back to, the birthright technology, we all have been prey. We all have been predators. We all have to find, the water to drink and find our way home and find our car keys, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So people with an open mind can do it. I don't think I've ever had anybody that could not do it, unless they say, "Oh, I can never do that." And then I say, "You're right. You can never
Never
do
do
that.
that. They created.
You're right." So we create our reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really curious whether you've ever tried it. Barbara Lamb has suggested that in the middle of crop circles,
Yeah.
there's going to find there's inevitably going to be water underneath, and it's going to be usually ley lines and other kinds of lines. I wonder if you ever tried your technique in a crop circle.
Well, good question. First off, most of the crop circles are in England, and I don't get there often enough in the right season. But I did get into one. I think it was 2003, near Stonehenge, and it was a new one. A lot of them show up near Stonehenge and the big tourist places.
Hmm.
But I happened to be hiking in the country looking at one of the white horses, the chalk horses,
Hmm.
and got up to the top of that and then looked down the hill. And there, in fact, was a pristine crop circle without any tracks into it, really. So I climbed down the fence carefully and um, walked along the lines, got to the crop circle, and I had my pendulum out. I often, when I'm walking in an energy place, I often just have the pendulum in my hand and ask it, show me the energy of this place, and show me if I'm safe, kind of thing. So I get to the edge of the crop circle. And my pendulum is spinning clockwise very nicely. Everything is fine. I take one step into the crop circle, and I feel this incredible stillness. My pendulum stops completely, and it
Wow.
was, it was the complete absence of energy.
Mm.
There was nothing there. And then I took a step out. My pendulum started up again. I felt okay. And I thought, and this is a wonderful way of keeping yourself safe, I thought, it is not safe for me to go in there
Mm-hmm.
because there is no energy in there. So I was not able to check for the water if there was any in there. Um, and then I've been around to some of the North American sites, and some of them are clearly fake. And one of the ways you can tell is just by the energy. You take your pendulum in and ask to see the energy. Um,
That's interesting about the danger. Barbara said that in a couple of cases, both one in the United States and one in UK, there were fried opossums.
yeah.
They were killed. That there is some danger to creatures.
Well, there can be. I mean, that's the thing. There are so many crop circles. There are so many things making these things
Hmm.
that you just can't go willy-nilly into everything. It's like jumping into moving traffic, except because energy isn't normally visible, we don't know we're on a freeway, so that
Wow.
the pendulum or the dowsing tools, they will let you know what kind of place you're in. Um, and the one I was in, it was a dead zone.
Mm.
So I did not go in.
Wow.
Now,
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
was curious.
really.
I was
I'm all,
curious about. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just. I'm interested in this subject. We're having a great
okay.
time. I have some questions too. So we got. Are you done with your questions
Go
about the
ahead,
crop
Janet.
circle? Okay. I'm curious about all the uses of dowsing. I,
Right.
yeah, I mean, remember when we were children, we were under like 10 years of age, and I guess we were doing dowsing, and we would just put like a string in and I don't know, pencil or something,
Right.
and we would ask how many children we were going to have, and
Right.
up and down was male, and cross was
Yeah.
female, and circle
Yeah.
was twins and something. And I'm wondering, this is probably the 50s or the 60s. I wonder where we came up with that. It's kind of like
Well,
passed down.
that's kind of
Yeah,
an old world grandmother's thing to do.
yeah.
Like when I tell people I'm a dowser, I get, and I always start off, I find water because that's safe. And then
Hmm.
everybody says, "Oh, I had an uncle that did that." Or my grandmother used to take a needle on a thread over the pregnant woman's belly, and
Right.
they'd find that out. So, what's interesting to me really, and if we can be blunt, and I think on your show you probably can
Oh
be.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Back in the day, let's say the 1600s, 1500s, they would kill people for doing that. The people would be called a witch. God forbid that you should do something unusual and the crop failed, because then you'd be dead. So this was all hidden knowledge. It was the secret knowledge, really, that they did try, I think, to stamp it out. The reason I call it a birthright technology is because we keep remembering how to do it. We keep figuring it out again.
Yeah. It's
You could take
also it's an anti-woman thing where the church is trying to
take away the power.
snuff feminine wisdom.
Yep, yep, absolutely. But we know it's true because we keep discovering it again. So, so
Hmm.
that's part of my mission. So, my story was I was very ill and I removed all my symptoms. I started helping other people. And I always thought, well, if I could do this, surely other people can learn to do it as well. So usually people come to me as a last resort because I have a consulting practice, and they've usually exhausted, all medical things, all, alternative things. They've done everything, which I did also. And then it's like, well, I have nothing to lose. In the extreme case, people say, well, they've given me 3 months to live, so I might as well try this now.
Hmm.
And it's like, buddy, if you had come to me a year ago, or if we had taught our children, I mean, this is really what I'm after now.
Hmm.
Let's teach our children how to do this so they never get to that state. It's a biofeedback device that we can very easily see how we're feeling. Do I have any energy blockages? Is something going on? Is this my problem? You get a headache out of the blue sometimes, or a stomach ache, or some symptom. You can ask with your dosing, is this symptom related to me,
Hmm.
or does it belong to somebody else? So, we pick up other people's tension and we take it on.
Hmm.
But if we can say, well, this is not mine, you can, oh, okay, it's not mine. I don't need to keep it, remove it.
So how accurate is it?
Well, another perfect question, and that really depends on the practitioner. So, for me, I have developed a protocol that I use. So I like to say I stand I stand on my teachers. I, I made it my mission to go to as many conferences, meet as many teachers as I could, and listen to everything, wrote it all down, started to incorporate it. And so the work I'm doing now is based on the teaching that I've had and also my own research. If I can say this, many of my teachers are dead because they did not protect themselves. You start working in psychic realms
Hmm.
without adequate protection, then you have no place to fall back to. So my dosing protocol, I kind of build a tank before I start. So um, I create an energy shield around me and then do the dosing in a very safe way. So I have a free handout if your listeners would like to have that. If they send me an email, susan@dowser.ca, protocol in the subject line, I'll send them a free handout on my method. And really, it's all you need to go forward and make a better life for yourself.
So, what's the incantation or chant that you would recommend just for now if somebody wanted
Yeah, how
to
did,
make a protective
Mhm.
circle around themselves from influences that might be harmful
Yeah,
to
what
them?
happened to some of your teachers that they died? So,
Well,
and
they
then,
didn't take it. For me, I crawled out of a cesspool of illness. My hands were claws for 23 years. Uh,
Wow.
no, it was like unbelievable. My immune system shut down. And I think because I started in such a bad place and worked my way out of it, that it taught me to be extremely pristine. I think most of my teachers came from a fairly normal health place, and they were strong, and they gave up part of their energy, I think, to their patients. And as well, when something releases, and God bless them for doing that, that they would take the stuff on, and I don't think they realized how big it was. So what I say now, I don't actually do anything, but I can facilitate. So like people ask me to balance them, I don't do anything, but we set up the flow of energy, and so it doesn't go through my field personally.
Oh, I love it. It's very much like one of my teachers, Ken Kai's, said, I see with loving compassion the lessons people are giving themselves for their own growth without getting emotionally involved myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Anyway, yeah.
Susan, we're coming up on our
Oh,
first break.
okay.
So, tell us what you want to cover in the second part of our show. We have another break after about another half
Well,
hour.
I would like to tell people how to protect themselves very
Thank
easily.
you.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're going to cover in our next break, and you have been listening to Divine Paradigm on KCOR Radio.
You are in the Divine Paradigm with Dr. Sasha Lesson and Janet Kira Lesson, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Some call it the height of human civilization.
Share your thoughts by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide colors use Skype name KCOR Radio. More positive potential revealed in the exploration of the paranormal after this.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network. Broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
It's time, once again, to unravel the mysteries of the universe by connecting the dots of the higher consciousness.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Become part of the show by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide colors use Skype name KCOR Radio. Tweet your thoughts anytime by using hashtag KCOR.
It's my favorite thing to do every day.
Escape the Matrix and join the conversation live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now, back to Divine Paradigm with your enlightened hosts, Dr. Sasha Lesson and Janet Kira Lesson.
We're back, Janet, Sasha, and our guest, Susan Collins. What did you want to say, Sasha?
Oh, just we're looking forward to how you can center yourself and protect yourself when you are doing this work of dowsing.
And what are you protecting yourself from?
Well, very good questions. So I'm a very wordy person, and I have developed a bulletproof dowsing protocol that's 2 pages long, a big handout. People sometimes go, oh my God, that's so much. Do I have to do it all? So that to me, that if you want to do big work, you get a big tank and you go and do that work. But it is wordy. Not everybody can do that. So the simplest way to protect yourself is to put your hands over your heart and remember the place of love. And that might be the love you feel for your child, for your pet, for nature. But remember a time, this is how you begin to feel it. Remember the time that you felt love, absolute, pure, unconditional love, and bring that from your heart and expand it from your heart. So I feel the head is like it's the computer program. We set our intentions up there, but the engine that drives everything is coming from the heart. So put your hand on your heart, remember a time you felt love, and then feel that love. Let that love expand out. And I know it sounds kind of corny to talk about love, but it's actually, there's an expression, there can be no dark where there is light. And when we can go into that heart place that is resonant with purity, if you find your authentic self, your pure self, let that expand within yourself and as far as you need to go. And that is the ultimate protection against anything. I remember when I first started doing this kind of work, I've been doing it about 15 years. I started that technique, just, practicing it. I was on a subway in Toronto, and we were at one end of the station and, waiting a few minutes to turn the car around. So there was maybe 25 people on the car. And I was just practicing this technique of emanating love. And at one point, about half the car got up and walked out onto the platform. And the rest of us looked at each other like, well, what's happening? Why did they all leave? And, later I thought, it's because I was creating such a forceful frequency, they couldn't stand it. So the dark cannot exist. In the face of authentic self, authentic love, the dark cannot stand.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can pull that up anytime. I mean, like people go into that fright mode. You stop breathing, you take your breath in, and your body shuts down. So you need to breathe. Doing an om or some sound, verbalize something. The vibration of a hum, open voiced sound. It sets up a vibration in the body, and then remember a time that you felt love, and then that will gradually build within yourself.
So how does all this? Oh, do you have a question,
Oh
Son?
no, I'm just remembering when I do yoga, my little kitty comes and licks my ear and purrs.
She's cute. She does
That's
yoga with him.
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I forgot my question was. Oh, I wanted to know how all this dowsing applies to the experiencers. What I was reading. Oh, no, the Star Children.
Yeah. So
Dowsing.
so there are. That's an excellent question. And I was in a movie recently, The Resonance. I'm not sure if you've seen it, by Dr. Lana Marconi. It's online, and the movie's very long. And it breaks into two halves, or there's two themes. One is the people talking about what happened in the past and the cover-ups and the conspiracies. And then the other part of the movie is people talking about their experience. And it's kind of hard to fit these people all together. And I think we'll see them again this year at the Alien Cosmic Expo in Brantford, June 24 to 26. So this the two types of people are attracted to this. One, where's the cover up? And B, oh my God, it happened to me. With the dowsing, we are able to move through subconscious information. So a lot of our life experiences right now, we're here, in our rooms and doing what we're doing, and we're in a conscious state. But when we go, a lot of who we are is buried in the subconscious state, and we can't remember it. You poke around and you really can't get at it. The beauty of the dowsing is that you can get into a detached state. We say it works best when you're ignorant and apathetic. You don't know and you don't care. It's very hard to get to that place, which is for me why I have this protocol. But if we can get to that detached, compassionate place, we can use dowsing tools as biofeedback devices to interview our subconscious minds to retrieve memories. Now, I have a new book. Here's a shameless plug for my new book, Meet, Meet Alien Energy with Dowsing. And I don't think that anybody has done this before. The book contains many questions. First, it talks a bit about aliens, teaches you the basics of dowsing so you can get an accurate yes and no. And then there's pages of questions about what are aliens? Where do they come from? Is it a military cover-up? But then there's the part that you can douse about what happened to me. Have I ever had an implant? Has anything ever abducted me? Then so it works with alien energy. But in my world, it's not just alien energy. Earlier, we were talking about the earth energies. There are so many very strong earth energies as well that if we get one of these gravitational anomalies or sunspots, for example, it can activate the same sort of electromagnetic frequency that makes us feel like we are experiencing alien energy. I don't know if you know about the God helmet. Have you heard of that? The Corin helmet? This is, you can Google this. It's very fun. The God helmet. It was developed by a Canadian researcher, Dr. Persinger, and built by Mr. Koren, Koren. So you can also check the Corin helmet. Basically, it's a football helmet with electrodes on the top of it that they can manipulate. They put people in a soundproof room, sensory proof basically, put this helmet on their head, and then start manipulating electromagnetic frequencies at a subtle level, and then ask the people what they experience. And very often people experience the presence of something. Many people experience the presence of a godlike presence, and some people experience the opposite of that, and tear it off and run from the room, kind of thing.
Wow.
So yeah, it's there's so much research out there, and so hard to know it all.
So what happens when they experience this? Let's say the godlike presence. Can they interview it or something, or?
Well, I haven't done it personally. I think you can buy them commercially now. I saw that. Okay. Well, there's a good question here with this research, and he, of course, was criticized to some extent, saying that it was a false manipulation of the brain. On the other hand, you could look at it, well, actually, this is opening a doorway of the brain, and perhaps the experience is authentic. It's like people that do ayahuasca in the jungles or other mind-altering substances. We know, apparently, that the brain itself produces some of these chemicals, DMT. So some people need external stimulus, such as the God helmet or ayahuasca or whatever, but many of us can actually access these chemicals ourselves. And the critics will say, well, you're fooling yourself. You're not actually experiencing talking to an angel, talking to an alien. You're silly. On the other hand, who's to say that this is not, the 80% of dark energy, dark matter? Who's to say we are not being actual interdimensional? For myself, I'm communicating interdimensionally all the time.
Right.
And I know I'm not crazy. And I get results too. I mean, that's the thing. The proof really is in what are the results. So I'm confident in.
So what kind of questions I guess what I'm trying to say, is it like the Ouija board kind of dowsing when you use something to point to something?
Yeah.
So what kind of questions? So they use the alphabet for that, and we had interviewed some people to get a lot of amazing responses when they use some kind of communication where they can spell things out. They developed different boards. There was another lady, Misha Johnston, who has a chart, and her question is, where does your soul originate from, and which star system? And then you go to where you say your soul originates from. And
I know this is fabulous that there's so many ways of doing this. The Ouija board is a valid tool. The only problem is that it's sold as a toy in stores without any training. So young children can start manipulating this, it actually opens a doorway. It does open a portal, an interdimensional portal. I should say it can. It doesn't always.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, children are so vulnerable with their imaginary friends that it's actually extremely dangerous without training to use that. With training, you're fine. Use charts, use Ouija boards if that's what you want to do. The questions, what questions do you ask? It's for an experiencer, for example, going back to your earlier question.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an experiencer. Uh, I have some experiences, but I don't think I don't have the classic profile. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I gather, people kind of have sort of memories, or they have a vision, but I don't think most are coherent unless they go through a hypnosis or an external process.
Typically, I'm an experiencer, so typically I'll have something that I remember, bits and pieces of, and then we use hypnosis, and I'll ask Dr. Lesson, let's do a session and see what's behind that kind of like a screen memory.
Right. Get in there.
Get in there.
The power of the dowsing protocol is that you can do it for yourself while maintaining your full conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
So most people don't have access to counseling, I think. Many people that these things happen to really have no place to turn. They can't afford it. They don't know about it. But anybody, it's the birthright technology, anybody can learn to dowse to stay conscious. Edgar Cayce, going back to one of our antecedents, he was referred to as the sleeping prophet. He was not conscious while he made his predictions. Or I understand, I was not there.
Mm-hmm.
So we've evolved. I think we're evolving beautifully as we go. We can now stay conscious as we access the subconscious and the superconscious. And there has been some research done on this with the using brain electrodes and taking dowsers through various states of through various mental states in passive dowsing, active dowsing. And they've shown that dowsers stay active in all mental states. I had an aura picture taken a couple of times. I've done it, but it wasn't a picture, it was a live feed. I don't know if you've seen those. So you put your hands on the paddles, and that's a television monitor that reads you over a period of time. And I gather most people, they put their hands down, and after a couple of seconds they lock into a certain frequency, and that's kind of their frequency. When I've done that, my frequencies change about every second or so, which is probably how often the computer is sampling it. But as part of my dowsing protocol, I have an ever-changing energy matrix that automatically adjusts to external conditions to keep me safe and protected at all times. So the television actually showed my frequencies like a radar going around and around. It was extremely cool.
Wow.
So there is some science that shows this stuff is actually working.
I'm still curious about who or what you are protecting yourself from. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what's the dangers? Is it like the Ouija board and you're opening yourself to the, like the little girl in the, what was that movie? The Exorcist, she opens herself up to the devil. That was an exaggeration, but is that what really happens?
That movie scared me tremendously. Yes, I do believe exactly that happens. That people go crazy with some of this stuff. Honestly, I have colleagues, some of them have died and some of them have gone crazy, who do this stuff without proper protection. Most people don't. Most people do it as a hobby. So it's like, you have a few drinks and you do something. But if you really, this is a tool like so many others that or I say it's like fire sometimes. You can use it to heat your house and cook your food, or you can burn your house down. So you have to learn how to protect yourself, and what from. You asked me that a couple of times. Well, it's everything. It's the world is so full of so many things. For example, people who want to cheat us. I had a phone call this afternoon. Somebody said, I have the ID tag on your computer, and I want you to type in these numbers. And, what he was really doing was trying to trick me into giving him access to my computer.
Oh my God.
Now
Wow.
that's just a scam. Or there's scams now where the email comes and it says, we regret to inform you your friend has died. Please click here for funeral arrangements. And that's just a scam
That's
to get
horrible.
access to. So there's enough horrible people in the world that God bless them all, right? But there's enough people trying to get something from you. Like our spam folders are all full of things. So we can discern truth. I think the bottom line, why do you use dowsing? It's to get at the truth. So whether it's your human relationships, maybe you want to buy a car and you wonder, well, is this the best price? What is the degree of resonance of truth for this car salesman?
That's exciting.
Or, what I douse for often in my business relationships is professional compatibility and personal compatibility. So let's say I'm going to go to a doctor for some process, and I have a choice of 3 doctors. I would dowse, please indicate our professional compatibility, like to what degree is he familiar with my problem, and to what degree is he able to provide a remedy for my problem. I want to find out if it's like 90% this guy knows my troubles and can help me. And I don't care so much if our personal compatibility isn't that high. I don't care so much. But let's say I've met a new friend. I think, oh, this is a nice person. I think we could hang out, and I'll check what's our personal compatibility. And if it's low, I think, well, we're really not meant to be together.
Wow, that's great. We could use that for the people that apply to be tenants at our place.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this now.
Yes, I have. This is exactly what we do. I do business contracts. We hire people, we write contracts. I have clients that I speak with, and I don't have their document in front of me, but I'll say, this sounds crazy. I'll say, page 5, second paragraph. You need to look at that, and my client will look, oh yeah, I can see that there's something in there that's not right. So we go, like, with training and with practice. I do this 24/7, really.
Wow.
We get very precise. No, we're not infallible. There's no guarantee, but.
What is your system that you use when you're checking on your, the business stuff and, daily things? You walk around the pendulum, or how do you do
Well,
it?
yeah. When I started out, there was always a pendulum in my pocket. I actually wore my jeans out from the little knob, in my pocket. Some guys do the wallet, but I had a pendulum thing. I did start out with a pendulum in my hand, and I use that all the time. There's other less obtrusive methods. And if your listeners want to try this, and if you guys want to try this, you can get your thumb and forefinger, make them into loops. Now, you can't see me, but link your thumb and forefinger and then try to pull them apart. Show me yes, show me no. Does that make any sense, what I just said?
Yes, muscle testing. Uh-huh.
Yeah, muscle testing. Exactly.
I think my girlfriend does that, but she makes her, like, let's say, her left hand into linking the forefinger and thumb, and she uses her right, it's open, and then she pulls.
Yeah.
She asks a question to herself, doesn't do it aloud, she pulls.
Yeah.
And if it opens her fingers, then that's either a yes or a no. I don't know. I've just seen her doing it. She'll say, let me check, and then she'll do this.
Yeah. So I call that's all dowsing. We just call that body dowsing, but many people call it kinesiology. Mm-hmm. So you go from having the tool to maybe doing some body dowsing, and then really you just know the answer. It comes to you. But I always check that as well, because honestly, at the beginning, when I felt spirit, because from the time I was a kid, I always felt spirits, quote unquote, around me. Scared me to death, but I could feel the back left side of my head tingle. Mm-hmm. That was my signal, and I sort of call that the phone ringing. And for the longest time, I could not tell the difference between a nice thing and a not nice thing. So, like, my head would tingle, and I couldn't tell what it was. it was just something was there. So I pull out my dowsing tool. And here's a phrase that a man named John Living gave me with the dowsing tool, and I pass it on. What he said, and what I often do, is I ask the energy, because it's often a conscious energy, do you accept divine holy love? Now we're back into that love word, and we're back into quasi-religious thing. But it's, a recent thing with the book in particular, it became very clear to me that when I am working with beings, I ask them if they are in resonance with the divine source. And that seems to be a huge divider. And can I tell a scary story here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we don't want to scare people, right?
That's okay. They'll get over it.
They'll get over it. We want people to have respect, is what it is. This is not a field you dabble in. We want people to have respect. So last year, when I was on my way to the Alien Cosmic Expo 2015, as I always do when I'm driving to a job, I used my dowsing protocol, and I asked, are there any beings associated with the conference that I have not encountered before? And we're talking energy beings, other dimensional beings. Are there any other dimensional beings associated with the conference I'm going to that I have not yet encountered? I got a yes. And I asked my first question, are you here for the best and highest good of all creation? Which is another one of my benchmark questions. Are you here for the best and highest good of all creation? I got a yes. So I'm very pleased with myself. Then I think, well, I'm going to follow up on this. So after a few minutes, I say, now, have you taken over the minds and bodies of people at the conference? Some of the people, not all of them. Have you taken over the minds and bodies?
Pause that. We'll get that answer after the break. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But that'll be good. That's our cliffhanger.
Short break coming.
Okay.
Short break coming up. We'll
Stay
see you in a
tuned.
few. Thank you.
You are in the Divine Paradigm with Dr. Sasha Lesson and Janet Kira Lesson, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Some call it the height of human civilization.
Share your thoughts by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide colors use Skype name KCOR Radio. More positive potential revealed in the exploration of the paranormal after this.
Hello? I can't hear you, but you can hear me, right?
Hang on, I want to make sure I understand. So a non-citizen can go over to a hospital and walk in and get emergency treatment. That never happens here.
What happens? Jobs are created. Guess what happens? The economy grows. Then you have more people paying taxes. Do they not understand?
I don't want to hear any more about Islam. I don't want to hear one more word about Islam. Take your religion and shove it up your behind. I'm sick of you.
Fatigued by the identical mind-numbing viewpoints up and down the dial?
You fat pig who lies on his back all day, demanding that everybody else subsidize them. What do you do, jerk? All right.
Well, listen to the master of provocative insight, Dwight Lilly, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now 3 nights a week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, and Wednesday and Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Whether it's local or national news, Dwight has his finger on the pulse of the nation.
So now you've got a case where Cliven Bundy, in an interview first broke in the New York Times, his comments are beyond repugnant to me. They are beyond despicable to me. They are beyond ignorant to me.
The Dwight Lilly Show, never restrained and always opinioned. Talk without the fluff.
The world is about to change forever.
Get your weekly dose of truth now 3 nights a week. Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And Wednesday and Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance suspense thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
This is the world famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune in to the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for the quantum shift. The world is evolving around us. Will you be ready for the shift?
This is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make.
The Quantum Shift, hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy, will enlighten your understanding of the world and bring you mentally into a better understanding of existence. The Quantum Shift, Quantum Shift, Quantum Shift, Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It's time, once again, to unravel the mysteries of the universe by connecting the dots of the higher consciousness.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Become part of the show by calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline number at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. Tweet your thoughts anytime by using hashtag KCOR.
It's my favorite thing to do every day.
Escape the Matrix and join the conversation live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now, back to Divine Paradigm with your enlightened hosts, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin.
Hello, and yes, we are back. Janet, Dr. Sasha, and Susan Collins. Sasha, you had to say something.
Well, we just had a fascinating discussion during the break, and in centering the system that I use and people in voice dialogue use. We see how each of our energy centers in the body, our chakras, are open or closed, and how the person we're empathizing with opens and closes. And as I talked to Susan, she pointed out the way to protect yourself from overly empathizing and fooling yourself, as I do with so many tenants in our place, is to use something outside the self as a mechanical intermediate to protect yourself, and so you don't have to take the energy inside. I thought that was a terrific insight.
That's
Susan.
wonderful, Susan. And then you left us hanging on the cliff. We're dangling. Help us, help us.
So just to recap, last year I was going off to the Alien Cosmic Expo. I asked, are there any, I'm communicating interdimensionally, which is my practice, and I ask, are there any interdimensional beings that I am not familiar with, I have not encountered, who are associated with the Alien Cosmic Expo? I get a yes. Are you here for the best and highest good? I get a yes. And then I ask, have you taken over any of the minds and bodies of some of the people associated with the conference? I got a yes on that. I don't react emotionally. Then I say, okay, well, do you want to take over my mind and body? Why, yes, we do. And I said, well, no, you can't. But they were completely okay with that. Interestingly, so I alerted the conference, and we set up special psychic protection at the conference. So for those going this year, again, we will be doing the same thing. And I've already started that, we call it sending our medicine ahead. I have already begun to establish psychic protection for participants at the Alien Cosmic Expo, specifically to exclude non-beneficial alien energy.
So who was taken over, and how did you help them or identify?
Well, I asked if they wanted to take over my mind and body, and to me, that's not acceptable.
Well, they said they already took over somebody.
Well, some people there, yeah,
Oh,
they'd already
I
done
thought
that.
it was one of the presenters or something.
Well, I didn't ask who because that's not my business.
Okay.
But I was qualifying them. Then further story, I had exactly the same interdimensional conversation going to the premiere of the movie The Resonance, which was interviewing many of the people at the Alien Cosmic Expo. I'm driving down to the premiere and I do the same thing. It's the same conversation. Are there some beings here I haven't encountered before? They're here for the best and highest good? Yes. Do you want to take over the minds and bodies of the people there? Yes. And then I called up. I set up some psychic protection, but I also called up at that point some colleagues, some human people, some colleagues, and we established some psychic protection as well at that point. So to me, honestly, again, to scare people a little, the most dangerous places you can ever go are the energy conferences because everybody shows up with all their spirit beings all around them. Whether this is aliens or ghosts or ancestors or whatever it is, if you've got 100 people in the room, you've got 500 extra conscious. I call them extra consciousness.
Extra consciousness.
That's the most polite term I can come up with. It's an extra consciousness associated with an individual. So the question is, with an individual, using dowsing, and I use a plus-minus chart. We were talking earlier about charts. I use charts as well because it helps to step back from things. We can't go into emotion, but I might have a little chart or my hand, the 5 fingers on a hand, that's numbers 1 to 5. I might run the pendulum over my hand and say, please, are there any extra consciousness associated with this person's energy field? How many? 2 extra consciousness. Is that beneficial to the person? Yes or no? Sometimes it's beneficial. This is our guardian angel. It's interesting. People will talk about angels, but they don't want to talk about aliens. But, we have our guardian angels, the good ones that kind of stay with us, or our dead grandmother who's protecting us from the car crash, or, we all have that. But there can also be non-beneficial things that are really just interested in taking our energy. So this is going back to the discernment. Just like you evaluate your used car salesman, you can evaluate the overall benefit of interacting with an interdimensional consciousness.
Fascinating.
I know.
How it says on your bio, or under Knowing the Star Children, that in a session time permitting, we'll also discuss how to repair soul damage, create safe boundaries, and create psychic protection against unwelcome contact. So how do you repair your soul damage?
Okay, good question. Well, let me start at the beginning, I guess. Throughout our lives, most of us experience some kind of trauma. It could be an accident, maybe a car accident, or falling out of a tree, or an assault, or who knows what. Very typically, the soul, this is my opinion, some part of our spirits, whatever we call it, just in that moment before the impact, before the terrible thing happens, a little part of ourselves leaves. And I kind of think it happens in that moment, when you stop breathing and you go, that shock and surprise. It's as if that little piece of yourself just kind of escapes and may or may not come back. So again, using our charts, I'd use a plus-minus chart. -10, 1 to 10 on one side, plus 1 to 10 on the other side. So I would start off, like, how do you know about soul damage, soul repair, soul retrieval? You need to get your baseline. You start with your plus-minus chart, have it running and neutral, up to 0. And you can say, the truth, the truth, the truth. Please indicate what percentage of my original soul is still integrated with my physical being. And for many people, the first time they do that, you might get, if you're lucky, you might get 80%. Some people only get 20%. They're walking around with 20% of their soul there. You can ask, so that's for missing parts of the soul. For soul repair, you could ask, go back to your chart, plus minus chart, start at neutral, run your pendulum. Please indicate what percentage of my soul needs to be repaired. And you might get a number 10% or something. I had two questions then. So I would say, should I begin with soul retrieval? Yes or no? I get a yes. Should I begin with soul repair? I get a no. So it seems like if there is soul damage and soul pieces missing, you would want to bring all the pieces back that you can.
Mm-hmm.
What was causing your personal wounds and illness in your body? Was it soul repair or soul damage or soul missing? Or
did you discover that?
did you ever discover what was behind your
for me?
own? Yes, yes.
Why did I get sick, basically?
Yes. Basically.
Yeah, well, that was my question. That drove me, after 20 years, I had a 20-year party. I'm done with it now. No. For me, honestly, and people listening can dose this, it seemed to be me not following my soul's purpose. So I had come in as a very intuitive child. I could feel things around me. I didn't feel I belonged on the planet. I honestly, and I say this in my new book, Meet Alien Energy with Dowsing, I really didn't know why I wasn't a mountain or a chair. Like I was not connected to the planet at all. When I was 19, I looked around. I was a teenager, right? Like kind of a geeky teenager, I guess. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try being a human. So I made that choice to jump into the full gamut of human emotion. And that's when I discovered, as we all do, that Earth is not only the planet of joy, but it is the planet of pain. Mm-hmm. So for me, being human means making choices. And going back to Sasha's comment right at the top, that sometimes these problems can create opportunities. That was certainly the case with me. So from the time I was 19 till 29, I had 10 years where I was fully a human and just made money and was in business, had a good career. And then I woke up one day and within a couple of weeks, my hands wouldn't move. So my symptoms came on very quickly. I spent the next 23 years with my hands as claws on diclofenac, methotrexate, prednisone, and chloroquine or something. And my immune system shut down. And it's a dramatic story. But I was told I had a disability. My doctor said, you've done very well for somebody with a disability. And I kind of looked around and said, well, who's she talking to? Right? I don't have a disability. So I never took that on personally. But I think spirit, and if we can, spirit, quote unquote, just kind of stopped me up short. The great thing about being in business is I developed various skill set, sales, marketing, product management, technology, all kinds of stuff. I used to go around and make speeches about the internet and fax machines and cool stuff. So I was really given a business training ground and then made completely sick, so I couldn't do it anymore. And then it was the journey, I talk about crawling out from that, which took years and years and years. I found Dowsing in 1999, and that was like the beginning of my rebirth, if you will. So I think I got sick because I was not following my soul's purpose. So as I got better, I began helping other people and teaching other people. But in the summers when my kids were at school, or not at school, when I was looking after my children in the summer, my hands would start to claw up again. So my flexibility and my health seemed quite tied to how much service I was giving and how much I was teaching. Mm-hmm. So I released that connection, because I used to say, oh, I'm kept on a short leash. I have to do this. And then I said, no, I accept that this is what I will do. I don't need to be taught these lessons through my health anymore. Right?
Right.
You know, here's another little medical story. My mother was in the hospital 2006 and pretty much dying at the time. And all these terrible things were happening to her. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm supposed to do something in the hospital. So I made a deal with Spirit, which we are allowed to do. And I said, don't kill my mother. I will do what I'm supposed to do. I will follow my soul's purpose. I'll figure it out and I'll do it. And honestly, she's 102 at this point. And I am not keeping her alive. She and I talk about soul's purpose. She says, why can't I die? I said, I don't know. Anyway.
See, you did it. You really did it. Now, well, yeah, you don't want to wish mom dead, but it's like she's asking, why am I still here?
No, it's like I have to be pristine in not keeping her alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us now, we have elderly parents. We have our children and younger dependents, and with the elderly, there is no end to what they need. And it's and I have a YouTube video if people want to look at that. It's on preparing for life and death with Dowsing. It's a 1 hour interactive workshop I did a year or two ago at the American Society of Dowsers. People got up and told the stories about how we can use dowsing to have a good death, basically. Let's have a good life. Let's have a good death. The way we start that is by not talking about transitioning. Let's talk about dying. Let's talk about dead people.
Mm-hmm.
We have
the real words, you're saying, instead of
like,
making it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to transition. No, you're going to die.
No, you're going to die, buddy. Let's talk. It's about all these things, whether it's aliens or ghosts or dying or taxes or sex or.
Yeah. Do you ever have contact with spirits? You said you were very intuitive as a child, and then kind of shut that down. I came in and
no, I didn't shut it down. Now it's what I do, right?
Now it's what you do. Now you came full circle, but
I came full circle.
You went into a business thing. I wrong words, but anyway, are you able to communicate directly with spirits like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I mean I'm talking about the dead spirits, people who are dead.
I talk to dead people.
Okay. Have you met any recently any interesting dead people, and who?
Have I met any interesting dead people recently? Oh, well, I'll tell you. I did a little ghost bust. Do you want a ghost busting story?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is last week at a restaurant. I can't say anything about the restaurant, but it's at a restaurant, and the owners know that there's something funny going on because there's poltergeist activity. Things are moving around, and they can hear each other calling them in the other person's voice, but of course they're not actually doing that. So I went in very calmly right before the restaurant opened and sat down, did my protocol, and the thing with the ghost bust is you cannot go into fear. So I'm like a social worker for these things, basically. So I have the living client that pays me, but I'm a social worker for the dead people. So, and it turned out there were 5 extra consciousness or ghosts there. They weren't aware of each other, all of them. There was 2 of them were together, and the other 3 were kind of separate. And they don't even know, they don't overlap. But, we have so many dimensions. Anyway, so we in a way, we kind of trick them. I hate to say this, but we do. The questions we always start asking is, first, I see you're there. Can I help you? I got a yes on that. This is all with dowsing. Would you like to go home? Yes, we would. Do you know how to get there? No, we don't. So they kind of get lost. Mm-hmm. So I said, just as I said earlier, to go to a place of love, remember a time you experienced love. So with the spirit, I say, remember what your home looked like. Like we try to activate the memory, and they couldn't do it. And I had the insight to say, remember what home smelled like. Ooh. And it turned out the restaurant smelled like home, which was why they wanted to be there.
Wow.
But they were kind of angry and frustrated, of course, because they couldn't actually eat the food because they're not in body. So there's frustration, anger, all that kind of thing. So at this point, I go into my spirit team, call them guardian angels or whatever. I work with a team of beneficial beings, and said, well, can we help this group? Yes, we can. Please bring in, trusted, bring in what's needed, basically, is the short story. And then, so I prepare heaven, if you want to call it that, prepare home. I use the word home because no matter what species you are, there is a home that you go to. That's a really nice, cozy word. And then so are you ready to go home? Yes. Can you see your people there? Yes. And then I always ask them, how do you want to go home? So for some, they always say, go into the light. Well, how the heck are you going to get there, right? Mm-hmm. So one little girl from pioneer times, I sent her on a train. She'd always wanted to go on a train. Other times I had out at the cottage, there was a spirit who was ravaging the cottages because he didn't like it. He'd been on the lake when there was nobody else there. So we said, well, do you want a new boat? Joe, his name was, well, would you like a new boat? Would you like a new lake? We sent him on his way in a new boat to the great lake he was going to get to. Anyway, the restaurant people, we asked, how do you want to get there? And they said in a taxi. So I said, okay, let's call the spirit taxi and get the spirits in there, and then they can go home and eat the food that they want to eat, basically. But there's all kinds of stuff out there, whether it's an active energy, you would call a ghost, but there can be energy signatures that are there. This place, for example, was quite close to a very large cemetery, and I think there had been stables in that spot. So the hearse would have pulled up, for example, probably pretty close to where the restaurant was, drawn by horses, all that kind of thing. So, tremendous, big emotion can stick around for a long time, whether it's big grief or big emotion. So we can clear out the old emotion, and then there isn't a problem.
Sasha.
Okay, well, this is a jump back that I've been left with from the very beginning.
Okay.
When you were starting to feel crippled, and what for not being, in your power, in your true self, what was the fear? Why did this part of you not? What's the danger of you being your true self? What was that? What was underneath that? What were you protecting yourself from?
Well, I was afraid, of course. I was afraid of the dark until I was 45. Because I didn't understand it, because I wasn't raised, because my family used to tease me. I'd be sitting on the stair, we lived in a 2-story house. I'd be sitting on the stairs, and my mother would say, let's blame the mother, right? My mother would say, don't sit there, there's a draft behind you. But I didn't know what a draft was, and I would jump up because I could feel spirit presence around me all the time. But there was no way of talking about it. And it's only now, like all these years later, that we can talk about these things openly.
Wow.
So it was fear.
Yeah,
Thank you. That really makes it all. So what we say in psychotherapy is what you fear at some level is what you want.
Yeah.
You want, yeah.
Yeah. No, I used to dream about spirits all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's we all have these interesting stories, but I think if we can, as you are doing, create a place where we can talk about it openly, and then we don't feel so isolated and alone and crazy. And quite often we're born into families where they just think it's all nonsense.
Right.
So you're providing here a place where we can speak openly and say, this is normal. It's maybe not average, but this is normal.
Fascinating. Wonderful. We have about 2 minutes left. What would you like to tell our listeners?
Well, I would say trust yourselves that you know how to do this. I call it dowsing, but follow your intuition. Do what your mother told you. Get some exercise, drink water, eat good food, get enough sleep, and then just start to feel the truth. The truth, I can handle the truth, I want the truth. And then find whatever it is that you're passionate about, put yourself in service to other people, and you will be given what you need to go forward.
And how do people reach you?
Well, my website, www.dowser.ca, dowser.ca. I'll send a free handout for the dowsing protocol. Send me an email, susan@dowser.ca, and I'll send that out. Have a look on my YouTube channel. I've got about 20 things up there. It's all workshop excerpts, and just let me know how you're doing.
Okay, and we will see you at the AlienCosmicExpo.com, and that's June 20?
June 24 to 26 in Brantford, Ontario.
Ontario, come on up.
Canada.
Much love and blessings, Susan. Thank you so much for being
you.
on
I
our
look forward to
show.
meeting you.
I look forward to meeting you too, and thank you, listeners. This has been
The Divine Paradigm, KCOR Radio.
Aloha.
In 3, 2, 1.
Until next week, we must leave the world of the divine paradigm. But always remember, you all exist on more than one plane or dimension. And there is a shift coming. A shift to universal consciousness. A shift to the divine paradigm.
Divine paradigm.
For more information on the divine paradigm, as well as the hosts, Dr. Sasha Lessin and Janet Kira Lessin, please visit their website at aquarianradio.com. Divine Paradigm, live every Tuesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Your transformational future is at hand.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51. Wait, that doesn't exist. This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.